Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be covering the career of Alex Harvey, who is a well-regarded figure in the ski community. Before we start, there is just one thing that needs to be addressed. When I see comments like this where people point out that I can't pronounce Scandinavian names properly, etc., let me clear this up. I am 100% Norwegian, and I'm not from the US or Canada like some of you believe. The voice you're hearing right now is an artificial intelligence voice, and it's not my real voice. I have to write all the scripts and edit all the videos myself, but the voice itself is a robot. I'm guessing most of you figured it out a long time ago already, but this had to be clarified. It's not my fault that AI can't pronounce names properly. Alright, it's now time to start the video, so here we go. The evolution of Alex Harvey. Harvey's debut on the international scene came in the late 2000s. He achieved his first ever World Cup podium during his first season as a senior in a 50-kilometer race in Trondheim, which is quite remarkable considering his young age.
Now the battle for third. Harvey has stepped it up. Villigzanin looking to get on the podium for the second time this season. But Harvey, the 20-year-old, has just exploded. Now, will Harvey hold on to third place? Villigzanin of Russia, there's nothing left to give. Absolutely nothing left to give. And Harvey's on the podium for the first time.
Skiers normally need several years before they become relevant at the longest races. But Harvey just arrived as a true all-rounder, and he stayed that way for the rest of his career. The first time I truly recognized the caliber of Alex Harvey was the week before the legendary 2011 World Championships in Oslo. As you can see, in a close sprint finish, Harvey beat Petter Northug fair and square. Around this time, Northug had a saint-like status in my eyes. As a kid, it immediately elevated my estimation of Harvey's capabilities. The first time many people may have been introduced to the Canadian skier was when he initiated an unexpected attack during the 30-kilometer in Oslo. Let's take a look.
Så var han med å vinne stafetten da, under verdenscupen i Lahti, og så kommer Alex Harvey. Nummer 2 i sprinten på Konnerud for en uke siden var hans beste verdenscupplassering. Han kjører tøft i dobbeltdans her. Her det ikke flatt. Dette knalltøft av Alex Harvey. Det ikke første gang vi ser han rykker underveis i et langt løp.
Ja, han ville heller ikke ha slippet for langt foran meg. Vi bør følge på, men det ikke noe initiativ i gruppa bak.
Han mener alvor her, Alex Harvey, og han i kalasform.
Ja, han pleier å stå hele veien nå.
Og faren Pierre vant 5-mila her i Holmenkollen tilbake i
1988, ja. Da det gikk 2 ganger 25 kilometer i det som virkelig var 5-mila i Kollen.
Og han sitter nå og følger sin unge sønn lede i Holmenkollen på nett-TV i Kanada.
Ja, han i form, for han pushet dobbeltdans hele den bakken bak Rateshaugen. Det tøft, det ikke mange som gjør det.
Jeg skjønner ikke at det mulig engang.
During this era, the V1 technique, or offset if you will, was more commonly used among elite skiers. You heard the commentators. They were almost in shock to witness someone successfully using the V2 technique on a climb like this.
Jeg skjønner ikke at det mulig engang.
Throughout the 2010s, we saw a rise in the prevalence of V2 skate, and more skiers realized that it was possible to push V2 on much steeper gradients than one would traditionally do.
Det nærmer seg Harvey nå, så han var ikke så lenge i paradis, den kanadiske Harvey.
En runde igjen, 3,75 kilometer, og 10 000 her inne på stadion vet at neste gang de får se løperne, så gjelder det gull, sølv og bronse, og nå blir det spurt.
Og Gjerdalen går voldsomt i gruppa bak og tar med seg Petter.
Ja, se på Tordasle Gjerdalen, han har ligget på halen hele veien nå, nå han fremme og drar. Northug opp mot ledende Alex Harvey, og nå forspranget til kanaderne spist opp.
Harvey's attack was unfortunately unsuccessful, but he achieved his real breakthrough a few days later, when he took home Canada's first ever gold medal in the sprint relay, together with Devon Kershaw.
Og så får Harvey innersporet. Det litt farlig, nå må du forbi Finland og få bytte spor på toppen. Ola Wiggen Hattestad.
Det fordel å være først ut av den svingen. Men
ja, da Ola går bra. Ola klarer seg strålende og skjærer inn foran Canada. Det helt perfekt så langt. Publikum skimter så vidt løperne i tåken. Men det Ola Wiggen Hattestad som leder. Så kommer Alex Harvey. Og Canada kommer fort. Det kommer veldig fort. De forbi Ola Wiggen Hattestad. Det blir da gull til Canada. Sølv til Norge. Canada vinner gull for første gang i langrenn. Alex Harvey vinner i Kollen.
For sure, it's a huge day for Canadian skiing, and I mean, this guy's the sickest talent ever, so I'm lucky to race with him.
At the time, Hattestad was considered one of the world's best sprinters, so much so that the Norwegian coaches considered Norway's chances of winning to be higher by picking Hattestad for the last leg, and rather having Northug on the first leg. In hindsight, some people said this was a mistake. On the other hand, Northug didn't look sharp that day, so Norway may not have won even if they had swapped around. Defeating Hadestad in a sprint finish confirmed what we had observed the week before the World Championships, that Harvey's top speed was something very special, and he possessed many of the same attributes as Northug. He just wasn't as profiled and established yet. After the sprint relay, however, the Canadian became more widely recognized among people with an interest in skiing. One of the factors that made Harvey popular was that he had a strong charisma, although I can't necessarily define exactly what it was that made him so charismatic, but he was definitely a super nice guy and just cool without trying. His technique was also elegant. On the final day of the World Championships, Harvey came close to getting an individual medal, but fell just short in the end. When I talk about the depth of the men's category being significantly better 10 to 15 years ago, now I'll show you exactly what I mean. If you watch the last 5 minutes of the 50-kilometer or the 30-kilometer in Oslo, notice how many nations were represented at the top of the sport. Let's just freeze the image here right now. This is from the 30-kilometer. With 2 minutes to go, you can see Norwegians, Swedes, Russians, Germans, Italians, Canadians, Finns, and even a guy from Belarus. Even at the 50-kilometer in Oslo 2011, there were only 32 seconds between number 1 and number 13. Fast forward 14 years to the present time, and we have a shocking 6-minute and 20-second margin between number 1 and number 13. There's a reason why I refer to the 2010s as the golden era, and apparently most of you seem to agree. It was a period where male cross-country skiing was unpredictable. Before every race, you never knew who was going to win, because at least 10 guys realistically had a chance of being the best. Not every athlete participated in every race. Sometimes certain guys were absent or they weren't at their best, but generally speaking, between 2010 and 2017, there was a tremendous depth of athletes who were at a high level. Unlike the way it is now, where, in extreme cases, Norway can take the first 10 places in a World Cup race.
10 nordmenn øverst på femmila.
Den internasjonale konkurransen vi nede I et bunnpunkt nå.
And to those of you who say, it's just about the Russians being absent now. No, it's not just about the Russians. In the early 2010s, we also had many competitive athletes from smaller ski nations that could actually win. Guys like Colonia, Polteranen, Harvey, Kershaw, Valjas, Babakov. Yeah, believe it or not, 3 or even 4 Canadians were actually capable of winning World Cup races. In addition to guys like Bauer, who won the Tour de Ski, Verpalu from Estonia, some Germans, some Finns, Frenchmen, Dolidovic from Belarus, some Italians, some mid-European sprinters, and many more. The Swedes were also significantly better back then. And yes, I'm talking about the men's division now. The insane depth was the reason why many high-level athletes from that time period are left with relatively few World Cup victories despite their high level of performance. I saw a comment under one of my videos. This guy says,
Northug and Sundby clashed in XC skiing's prime days.
And yes, there's actually some truth to that.
Det han sier jo sant da. Det jo sannheten.
Okay, I'm sorry for losing focus and going somewhat off topic here, but now I'm going to bring it back to what this video is really about. Alex Harvey. Harvey continued to work hard, and his first ever World Cup victory came in March of 2012, when he won a 3.3-kilometer time trial in skate. For those of you who don't know, Harvey's father was actually both an elite skier and an elite cyclist in the 80s.
Pierre Harvey, han håller loppet ut. Han gör sitt livs insats I skidspåret idag. Och för en gångs skull ska ni nu få höra lite franska I längdspåret.
Alex also did competitive mountain biking in his younger years, although he put it aside to go all in for skiing as a senior. He still continued to use the bike as a training tool during summer and fall, though. In the 2013 World Championships, Harvey got an individual bronze medal in the sprint. As you can see, Just like in 2011, he showcased an outstanding top speed, and it actually looks like he was faster than both Northug and the Russian in the last 100 meters. He does have an aerodynamic advantage coming from behind in a sprint finish like that, but it's still very impressive. One of his best seasons was the 2013-2014 season, where he managed to win 3 World Cup races and achieve a 3rd place in the overall World Cup. Let's have a look at his performances.
Av Harvey kommer til å ta teten her faktisk. Har kanaderne endelig våknet fra dvalen 4 sekunder foran Kershaw.
Ja, det er forvandling av de kanadiske gutter.
Jakter fart.
Og tyskeren prøver også å avansere selvfølgelig dette strekket.
Fint for Harvey ut og gjør seg bred og forbi franskmann. Alex Harvey, og det blir lang sving for Wenzel. Dette skal Harvey kunne klare å ta. Han får flere meter opp på oppløpet. Ser seg tilbake, men det er bare å se rett fram på målstreken. Alex Harvey, han kommer tilbake etter Tour de Ski. Inn på oppløpet med Jonsrud Sundby først. Bakfra kommer en jaktende Alex Harvey, så bommer Martin litt i svingen.
Harvey er god i spurt i dette terrengen.
100 meter side om side. Harvey mot Jonsrud Sundby. Det er helt likt, men Martin har jo blitt bedre til spurte. Det ser vi her, men det kan være innslaget det står på igjen. Harvey kommer seilende, og det blir Alex Harvey som vinner i dag, og som leder sammenlagt før siste etappe. Han vil lede med 25 sekunder cirka på Martin Jonsrud Sundby, og så blir det en tredjeplass på en illsint Lekholt.
I want to point out one thing though, because if you're very young and perhaps you didn't experience this era, it becomes difficult to see the full picture. If you look at the 2010s as a whole, the clear top 3 guys were unquestionably Sundby, Colonia, and Northug. Harvey was never seen as the guy, but rather he was one of the guys, who for most of the time was just a little too weak to be the best. He never won the overall World Cup. He never won the Tour de Ski, so I would in no way give the impression that Harvey was the king of the 2010s. When I made a video about the top 10 male skiers of the 2010s, I ranked him in the lower half of the top 10. That's where he belongs. He's definitely not in the league of the top 3 guys mentioned. However, Harvey could be remembered as one of the most typical or quintessential 10s guys who was relatively consistent in performance throughout the entire decade.
Alex Harvey er verdensmester i sprintstafett. Nå går han for VM-gull individuelt.
On the first day of the 2015 World Championships in Sweden, Harvey once again showcased his brilliant ability to reach a high top speed in a fatigued state, which is a unique skill.
Northug, full adrenalin, inn på et oppløp, først i et mesterskap igjen. Klarer Petter Northug det da? Ja da, han kjører på, men Harvey kommer, men mesterskapsløperen Northug er tilbake. Men kommer han helt til målstreken? Harvey kommer, fram med foten, ja da! Ja da, han er tilbake! Han vinner på direkten i Falun, i Løvens hule, og han tar sitt første VM-gull i sprint. Petter Northug, for en mann!
As you can see in the sprint final, he almost managed to pull off the incredible feat of winning the individual gold, and he almost went down in a full front split position, but it just wasn't enough to defeat Northug that day. One of the Norwegian commentators always used to say that it was kinda strange how Harvey always reached those exceptional top speeds, despite not looking that explosive as a skier. I have to agree. Because when you analyze his skiing, he somehow doesn't have the kind of super explosive contraction or whatever you want to call it that most sprinters have. He was good at longer races and obviously had a lot of type 1 or slow twitch muscle fibers. He's kind of similar to Poltaranen in that sense, where both guys use their bodies so efficiently through proper technique, and they both appear to be very flexible, especially in the back, which allows them to reach further per stroke, especially in a flat sprint finish like this. A few days after the sprint, it was time for the ultimate all-round distance, the 30-kilometer duathlon. Harvey chose a strange tactic, staying in the front of the group for many kilometers. This was an odd choice for someone who had his sprint finish as his strength.
Han kjører på i tet, Harvey, slik han har gjort lenge nå.
Jeg undrer hva kanadieren egentlig tenker på her. Det er fortsatt 1 mil igjen, og nå har han dratt, men han blir jo ikke kvitt sine hardeste rivaler.
When the big-name athletes attacked with 4 kilometers to go, Harvey struggled to keep up as his strong suit was never uphill and never the offset technique. But he obviously had one of the best days of his career, and through his remarkable speed on the flat sections and descents, he managed to get back into the group, the only one to do so.
Men han Harvey, og han kommer fort, han dunker til I dobbeldans, og Hetland skjønner at hvis han kommer opp der så har han en fantastisk mulighet, men se på Harvey, det mangler 4,5 sekund. Det livsfarlig å slippe spurtraske Harvey helt opp her nå.
He was able to outsprint Tunseth and achieve a bronze medal, which he was happy with. However, I still wonder if his poor tactics may have cost him the gold medal that day.
125 meter, Harvey sliten. Han må spurte om bronsen mot Tunseth. Wilhelmsen går for full maskin. Colonia gir seg ikke. Det blir en kamp til døra. Det kommer til å bli målfoto. Og han har Harvey, men så seiler Harvey fra. Det blir 4. plass til Tunseth. Og Wilhelmsen etter 4 sølv, så tar han endelig mesterskapsgullet.
So all in all, achieving 2 individual medals, Falun 2015 was a successful event for Harvey.
I'm really happy. It's every time we're on the podium, a Canadian, it's always a team effort. Today the skis were amazing and everything, the staff, the therapist, it's all a big team effort. So I'm really happy when I can have the Canada flag on the podium, then the whole team sees itself in there.
The following season in 2016 was decent, but nothing out of the ordinary. The placings you see confirm what I talked about earlier in the video, that Harvey's performance for most of the time, it wasn't really that spectacular. However, Harvey's best season was arguably the 2017 season, where he finished 3rd in the overall World Cup and had several high points. In January of 2017, he won the only 15-kilometer individual start skate race of his career in a very convincing manner. On the last day of the 2017 World Championships, Harvey had the peak moment of his career, becoming individual world champion in the 50-kilometer. Let's have a look at the finish.
Kan egentlig bli verdensmester individuelt da. Harvey som vant laggullet I Oslo, nå har han tidenes mulighet. Men Stjåle like bak han, Martin Jonsrud Sundby har ikke sjans, det blir ikke gull på Jonsrud Sundby. Det blir ikke medalje. Alex Harvey blir verdensmester for Canada. Harvey blir femmilsmester, og det blir ikke norsk medalje. Det blir ikke gull I Lahti på distanse denne gangen heller. Blir en forbannelse over norsk herrelangrenn med å ta gull I VM I Lahti på distanse.
Harvey also won another World Cup race after the World Championships on home soil in Canada when he defeated none other than Finn Hogan in a sprint. Imagine how popular Harvey must have been on home soil right here, having just been crowned 50-kilometer world champion and then delivering in front of the home crowd. On the last day of the mini-tour, he also came close to beating Klæbo, but of course Johannes and Finn are not the same. The next season, in 2018, Harvey had a consistent performance where he got several podiums, but he didn't have those peak moments he had the year before. Still, I personally think he had one of his best performances ever on the final stage of the Tour de Ski, where he managed to climb significantly better than he did at earlier points of his career. While I know very well that one shouldn't compare times from ski races directly, as external factors will always vary, it's startling to see that if you analyze the peloton as a whole, this was by far the fastest effort on that climb, probably due to fast conditions. Anyways, Harvey achieved a 3rd place in the Tour de Ski and was clearly satisfied. In the 2018 Olympic Games, Alex was close, but he failed to bring home medals, and his individual placings were 8, 31, 7, and 4. Okay, so the 2017-2018 season was then finished, and this was overall a good season, finishing 4th in the overall World Cup. Apart from one sprint podium in late 2018, Harvey's 2018 to 2019 season was not one of his best, and halfway through the season, the relatively surprising announcement came that Harvey would retire after the season. I remember not seeing it coming, and I was surprised and somewhat disappointed as Harvey had always been one of my favorite skiers, and I envisioned a longer career. In 2019, he didn't succeed in the World Championships either, but he luckily managed to finish the last races on home soil in Canada in a very good way, achieving 2 podiums, and kind of similar as 2 years prior, he was beaten by Klæbo. But as he said himself, to finish his career in a positive way on home soil was very meaningful to him. So yeah, if you remember, last fall I made a video about my favorite skiers, and Harvey was in the top 10, which he still is. This guy had character, style, and it's always cool to see athletes from non-typical cross-country skiing nations succeed to the degree Harvey, Kershaw, and Valjas did. Since that generation, Canada unfortunately hasn't been able to replicate their greatness, and I really miss the old ski team Canada that was actually capable of getting on the podium in World Cup relays and was competitive at the world level. Harvey was only 30 when he retired, but at the same time he started early, so we're still talking 10 years, from his first World Cup podium in 2009 to his last in 2019, of being relevant at the highest level of the sport. Since he announced his retirement, we haven't heard too much from Alex Harvey, and to my knowledge, I don't think he has too much to do with the ski community nowadays. But if you scroll down his Instagram page, you'll see that he still maintains a decent physical shape through regular cycling and skiing training in Canada, which is also one of my favorite countries, by the way. Although you guys are now aware that I'm fully Norwegian, as I clarified at the beginning of the video. So now we've done a recap of the career of Alex Harvey, the most prominent Canadian cross-country skier ever. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you again.